Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and as promised, I did watch the Smash JT Colin debate. I made Keenan, a longtime channel contributor who usually does stuff off camera, or you've seen him in my Japan IRL streams. But I made Keenan watch it too, because I wanted kind of a second opinion. I didn't want to come in here, because I promised JT, because he did contact me, if you go into the comments of the last video, I did promise him I'd go in as unbiased as possible. Keenan, who has no idea who Smash JT or Colin Moriarty are, he watched it, so he went in completely unbiased. I gave him no prep work or nothing. I just kind of gave him the background of what the debate was about, so he would at least have some understanding. But I didn't try to paint a picture for him either way, so that way Keenan could be definitely so like. Keenan could come in and biased and either check me on anything I say or agree with me, and you're like, that's somebody who doesn't know shit about any of these things. So he is he's coming from a place of not knowing what JT or Colin are about. So the debate. So basically how the debate started, if you have not watched the video or kept up with the Twitter drama, which has been fun. Colin had tweeted out a tweet congratulating Sucker Punch for Ghost of Yotei being the 18th best-selling game in the United States as of for this year so far. It can improve, it can go up, it can go down depending on what it sells further on and what other game sells. But he did that. And so JT, for lack of a better term, took offense to that. He was just kind of like, how do you know those are real numbers? And that's kind of where the debate is. It's over how legitimate Sukarna's sales data is. And for those of you who don't know who Sukarna is, it's a database system. They track all retail sales of video games. So any kind of physical copy sold, they know exactly down to the single unit what has been sold. They track all major digital storefronts, so your Steam, your Epics, your Xbox, your PSN, GOG, things like that. They don't track any real small hole-in-the-wall ones, which I won't name by name because I don't even know what they are. So that's how little sales data. And they do not track Nintendo sales data, digital sales data, because Nintendo does not share that with anybody, so they can't track it. And then they don't count DLC expansions, and there's one other thing. DLC expansions, and maybe it was just Nintendo digital sales. So that's like your little asterisk to their sales chart. So it's going to be pretty accurate with sales. Like, obviously, Nintendo digital sales data might be a big missing piece to a kind of puzzle for sales for the year, but at the same time, I don't think it's as relevant to total sales, only because Nintendo fans like myself, we tend to like physical games, and we've done videos on the channel about key cards and how a lot of Nintendo fans hate key cards because you don't actually have the game on the cart, kind of thing like that. So I think there's probably a large digital sales number from the Nintendo eShop, but I think like their physical sales of their games really paint the whole picture. Unlike obviously PC games, which there are no physical sales, and then Sony and Xbox, which have tracked higher digital sales in the past few years. So there you go. There's your little talk about Sukarna. So basically, kind of like the debate starts off with JT questioning Colin about Sukarna and things like that. And I have notes here. It's a lot of notes. I didn't feel like retyping everything that I wrote down, so I'll be looking down a lot. I apologize. So Colin congratulating about 18th best game. And the thing about the Sukarna data is you have to pay for it. They don't just give it to you for free. Like Matt Piscatella, he will tease out numbers and tease out things to try to get people to pay for the numbers and things like that, but they don't give away all the sales numbers for free. You have to pay for them, which is a big thing, and part of JT's like contention to where he was saying, well, how do we know, since there's no transparency, you have to pay for it, how do we know they're not fudging numbers and things like that? And Colin kind of fires back with, why would they do that? They're the gold standard. People, investors, companies, and everything go to them for these sales numbers, so why would they lie about them? And JT kind of gets into conspiratorial talk about how to gain favor with Sony and other companies and things like that. And Keenan, another reason why I had Keenan do this, because Keenan is a very savvy businessman. He freaking looks over multi-million-dollar companies And so that he's brought in for the whole sales thing. And Keenan, if you want to chime in about why a data collecting agency that charges for its data, why they would not lie about that data they've collected.
Because pretty much it's their business model. So people are paying them to give numbers. So providing bad numbers makes that company look bad. So why would you do that? Why would you make yourself look terrible? Then you're going to lose that business, and then you'll go out of business because no one's going to trust you anymore. No one's going to pay for numbers that's wrong.
Yeah.
So people want the right things. So it makes no sense for them to provide bad numbers. It doesn't help them at all for any of that. If someone's going to pay for their business, because that's their business model. So if they're getting it for free, then I can see things happening if they're doing free numbers, because then they get other businesses that give them numbers can try to boost it with them. But if people are paying for it, they're trusting the numbers, and they don't want to lose that business.
Yeah, and it's kind of like to the point like if Sony can double check these numbers too, because Sony can call up Best Buy, Target, Walmart, corporate office and say how many copies of Ghost of Yotei have you sold, and Sony can easily check their digital storefront to see how many copies have been sold. So they can easily cross-check, but they pay for these services so they don't have to do that work. So it's one of those things, if they even had a whiff that Circana was lined in, and not just Sony, but Xbox too, and other video game publishers and distributors, things like that. So if they even had a whiff that Circana was fudging numbers for whatever reason, like why would they? It doesn't even make sense why they would do it. So they could easily cross-check those things, because it's not hard for these corporate entities to call up other corporate entities to like, hey, how many copies have you sold? And it'd be probably a couple keystrokes. Oh, we sold 50,000 or whatever, kind of thing like that. So it's easy to cross-check. So it wouldn't make sense why they would, lie about any of those numbers, especially when they're charging thousands of dollars for these numbers. I think Colin said like $6,000 or something like that for the data, like just an exorbitant amount of money. So if I'm paying that much money for a service, I'm going to probably double check them once or twice a fiscal year or something like that, just to make sure the information I'm paying for is accurate.
You're expecting the right numbers.
Yeah.
Because you're paying for that service. So, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of thing like Ubisoft used to be a part of Circana. They've pulled out, and when they pulled out in July, at the end of July, Assassin's Creed Shadows was the third best selling game in the US up to that point. And so you won't see that on the chart. So yes, their rankings won't be 100% accurate because certain publishers don't pay for the data or pay to be a part of the data, so they don't track it, like Nintendo digital sales. But their numbers are as accurate as the data that they have. So anything they say is accurate to the data that they have collected. So when they say something, it's because they have all those numbers, kind of things like that. So yes, a game might be higher on the list because Assassin's Creed Shadows no longer appears on the list because Ubisoft doesn't pay for it. But Colin talked about that, and he kind of hinted at that Ubisoft would probably be back as a part of Circana. So then you'll see it appear on the chart again. So
by the way, they put disclaimers and everything.
Yeah,
was not there.
Yeah, if you pay for the service, there's a legend that says this will not appear on the chart because of this. So they're not even hiding that. So they're letting you know that this is the best data is collected. And it is considered the gold standard. Like Colin kind of said this a couple times, that's the gold standard of video game data collecting in the United States. And I didn't just take his word at that, because I wanted to know more about Circana before I did this video, so I went and looked it up. Like I just Google searched Circana, and there's Reddit posts, news articles, all kinds of things about how, basically to reiterate what Colin said, they're the gold standards. That's what everyone in the industry, be it companies or journalists and things like that, they're the ones, they go to Circana for their numbers. So it's not just Colin's word that they're the gold standard. It's pretty much everyone in the industry trusts them to give them the most accurate numbers that are collected. So there is that. And then, because and I did say I would like to determine a winner, and for the Circana thing, like Colin easily kind of won that part of the debate, because JT offered up no examples of why they would lie, other than he said they to gain favor. But gain favor with who? What does gaining favor with Sony or Sucker Punch about Yotei numbers do for Circana? Like, it doesn't do anything for them, kind of thing like that. And that's the big thing with any kind of conspiracy thing. The easiest way to like end the argument, ask them why someone would do that, and then they've got to think of a reason. And generally, the reason doesn't make any sense because, like, okay, that's your reason, but why would that be the reason? So, and like JT really could not answer why they would lie, other than to curry favor. And again, how does that benefit Circana? Because if they're lying about numbers for Sony, then Microsoft is gonna like be like, hey, what is that all about? And other video game publishers are like, why are you lying for Sony? And then they lose customers. So then they started discussing Ghost of Yotei sales not meeting Tsushima numbers, and there's a reason why JT asked this, and we're gonna lead into it. And I saw where this was going a mile away because I know who Smash JT is. Keenan had to actually watch the debate and see where it was going. And I mean, the long and the short of it, the reason why Yotei has not reached the same sales numbers as Ghost of Tsushima is Tsushima was on the PS4. The PS4 had a way bigger player install than the PS5 does. So just there's more people to access that way. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. You get more sales when you have more people to sell to. Plus, Ghost of Tsushima then had a director's cut released on the PS5, so then that would also add more sales if someone didn't pick it up on the PS4 and they wanted the 4K 60 frames per second version, then that boasts the sales. And I don't know if like upgrading from the regular to director's cut also gave it more sales numbers, but again, bigger player install base, more sales you're going to get. That's why if you see a game released on PlayStation and Xbox and you're like, oh, well, it sold better on the PlayStation. I wonder why. Well, because there's like three times as many PlayStation 5s on the market than there are Xbox Series X's. And I mean, it could also say like, you can take someone like me. I love Ghost of Tsushima. I platinumed it. I played the hell out of it. Enjoyed it. And because Ghost of Yotei, and this is one of the few things that I kind of agree with JT on, and when we get to that part of the video, I'll explain more. When Ghost of Yotei was announced, and it wasn't about Jin, and it was this new character, and it was set, I think, 100 years in the future from Ghost of Tsushima, my interest waned a little bit because I spent like 80 plus hours playing Ghost of Tsushima with Jin, so I got really attached to that character in that setting. And so when they took it to a different part of the island, I was still kind of excited, but I lost like the fervor I had for a sequel. And also, been a busy year of games. Been a busy year for me becoming a dad a third time over, coaching baseball. My backlog grew. I didn't want to buy another game that would just sit on the shelf and wait for me to get to it. So there's some reasons why I didn't buy Ghost of Yotei, and so I'm not saying it's completely down to more PS4s, but I think more PS4s. And Keenan, would you agree on a business sense? More player base to sell to, obviously the game will sell more.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing like that.
Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah.
We have more options.
So actually, let me see. Let me check the Metacritic scores for both of them because I think Ghost of Yotei scored well too. Metacritic. Ghost of Yotei.
Do like a percentage of your available audience, and that'll determine who the winner could be.
The Metascore 86. General favorability, that's the user score, that's an 8.2. So it reviewed well. Let me see, Ghost of Tsushima's Metacritic score. 83 and a 9.2 from the player base. So basically kind of reviewing the same. Like, players seem to like Tsushima a little bit more, critics seem to like Yotei more. So, yeah, it reviewed favorably amongst players and critics. So, yeah, I would say for the most part, the sales being different is the PS4 I want to say the PS4 is like twice as many as the PS5, and that's part of the chip shortage from 2020 and various other things. Ooh, a Mazda 2 on Pim's stream right there. I do that sometimes too. I'll call out cool things I see on Pim's stream if I have that in the background while filming this. Go check out 4am Laundry if you want positive spin on game collecting, kind of thing like that. So yeah, they discussed that. And then JT, as I knew what he was going to do when he talked about Yotei sales versus Tsushima, he leans into activists in gaming. So, wow, did I not write down the actress's name? So the lead actress for Ghost of Yotei, she is a bit of an activist. Like, JT brings up a tweet of hers where she's like, I'm Antifa and so is my wife. Kind of one of those things that, like, young people like to do to stick it to the chuds, kind of thing like that. And he kind of goes on this rant about that kind of killed Yotei for him. He's like, and we know he kind of hints at, but he doesn't come out and say, but he had a problem with Ghost of Yotei because it stars a woman, regardless of the actress playing the character. The actress could have been a right-wing MAGA person, but he probably still would have had a problem with a woman being the lead character in a Edo, might have been Edo era. I can't remember what the era Yotei is in because I haven't played it yet. But that kind of ancient era of Japan, a woman being in there. So it's one of those things, but he just kind of uses her being an activist as a point. And so then JT kind of like, why wouldn't they continue Jin's story? Why wouldn't they? And I do kind of have that thought, but Colin also brings up a good point. Like at the end of Tsushima, especially at the end of the DLC, they kind of finish his story. His story's kind of done. And it's something that I've always thought about with movies and books, book series and stuff like that, because I know you watch a lot of movies, you read a lot of books, you watch a lot of TV, where all these fantastical adventures happen to the same character over and over again. Like, take Die Hard, for example. John McClane, there's 4 or 5 Die Hard movies, I can't remember. And there's no way one New York City cop finds himself in terrorist plots at 4 or 5 separate occasions, kind of like John McClane does, kind of thing like that. So it does, at a point, sometimes you want to carry on the spirit of something, but maybe you need a new protagonist, because it's kind of like, this doesn't happen to the same person over and over again. And maybe that's what the creative team at Sucker Punch was thinking, is like, they made a very realistic light game. Like, you could probably convince a lot of people if you said, oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is based on a true story or a true legend that actually happened in Japan. And okay, buddy, come tell me your problem. Bowie's coming here to tell me a problem.
This is just not opening.
Okay, buddy, I'll open your... Gotta open some Halloween candy for him, sorry. Sorry to break the thought right there. Well, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
You want to tell them to like and subscribe, because I forgot to do that at the beginning of the video?
Subscribe!
There you go. Alright, go watch your YouTube videos. But yeah, you could probably tell somebody, like, just because the way things happen in Ghost of Tsushima, you could tell, like, oh yeah, this is a real true story. And they would watch it, and I wouldn't even say anything really fantastical happens other than one dude taking out the entire Mongol army that would invade Tsushima. But that would be one of those kind of things, like, where we have kind of like those legendary myths of real things happening, like the story of 300. It wasn't just 300 Spartans. It was 300 Spartans and like 3,000 Athenians that defended that pass. But it's a better story if we say it was just 300 Spartans. Kind of thing like that. So you could say that was a legend, people would believe it because nothing fantastical happens. So maybe Sucker Punch was like, well, because we kind of made a realistic kind of game, this kind of thing's not going to happen to the guy again. Or at least the story, or maybe they did want to make a sequel with Jin, but the story they were developing felt forced on Jin. Like, it didn't make sense for Jin. So they're like, okay, we like this story, we don't want to scrap this story, we got to think of a new protagonist. And that's where we get the main character of Yotei, who I don't know her name because I haven't really played the game. I've kind of like stayed away from like trailers and stuff of the game because I do want to go into that game completely blind when I get around to it. But yeah, so maybe that they attributed it to the other character. And JT was like, why make it a woman, to Colin? Colin's like, creative decision. And there could be a million different reasons why they made that main character a woman. And again, I haven't played the game. That whole reason could be in the game too, because JT has obviously not played the game either, and he's making assumptions about it, which goes back to, I've talked about this a million times with Alan Wake 2, people bitching about Saga going from a white woman in that little Easter egg in Quantum Break to being a black woman in the game, calling it woke, where kind of story beats kind of leans itself, spoiler alert, to a 2-year-old game, that possibly Saga might be connected to Walden Dorr, who is a black man based on a Quantum Break character called Hatch. So they changed Saga, who was just an Easter egg, and you have to go looking for that Alan Wake 2 Easter egg in Quantum Break. It's not in plain sight. So it's the epitome of an Easter egg. So they kept Hatch/Dorr black, and so they're like, well, and like, I think Dorr is going to turn out to be Saga's father. That's not confirmed at all in the game, so it's not spoiler. It's just kind of clues hint at it kind of thing. And so because of that, I think that's why they changed Saga to being black. I don't think it had anything to do with liberal leftist woke agenda. I think it is a creative decision Sam Lake made because he's a fantastic video game storyteller. And so I think it's something we're going to learn maybe in Control 2, Alan Wake 3 kind of thing. So that's just kind of like my thought on that. It was a creative decision to change Saga Black because it works better in the story. And so, like I said, I haven't played Ghost of Yotei yet, so making the main protagonist a female might work better in the story, kind of thing like that. So that was a creative decision, because maybe when they said, okay, this story doesn't work for Jen, let's do a new protagonist, maybe that protagonist started off as a male, but as they got further in the story work, they're like, you know what, this might work better as a female character, kind of thing like that. So that's just one of those things. And then so we talked about the creative decision. Next page. And JT kept saying he was going to give it a chance until he saw that Antifa tweet from the lead actress. But my thoughts on that, because like Colin brings up, because JT talks to him about how like they're leftists at Sucker Punch, and Colin brings up, it's like, I know there are people who work for Sucker Punch who actively hate me. He's like, I'm a conservative in gaming. It's like, if I played games by people who wouldn't like me based on my politics, there wouldn't be many games to play. Right. And that's kind of my thought from that. You got to separate the art from artist. And my thought with games has always been, as long as it's fun, and there's for certain games, if there's a story that keeps me hooked, I enjoy it, kind of thing like that. And that should be number one for video games, is making them fun to play, kind of thing like that. And also, it's like, I never look into politics or anything like that when it comes to actors, directors, writers, game makers, things like that, because 99 times out of 100 it has no implications on the actual game I'm playing, so I don't care. And two, it's like, even like people who I agree with politically, I'm not going to agree with them 100% politically, so why would I not consume content from them or like things from that because we disagree politically? So just that always argument of like, oh, because you're a conservative and someone's leftist, I shouldn't play their games, watch their movies, watch their shows. Like, if you based your entertainment based on political leanings of the people, the creative people involved, you're gonna run out of shit to enjoy real quick. So it's just kind of one of those dumb things. And just politically wise, because we don't get political on this channel, I'm a libertarian, just so you know. I don't like the Democrats or the Republicans, kind of thing like that. So that's just kind of one of those things. So don't think I'm kind of leaning one way or the other to the liberal or the conservative agenda. If you talk to my liberal friends, I'm a dirty conservative. If you talk to my conservative family, I'm a dirty, godless liberal. So I have no home, kind of thing. I take every issue as a singular entity. I don't lump them all together to liberal and conservatism, kind of thing like that. So then after that kind of discussion about the actress and things like that, Colin asked JT why his YouTube channel is just, why he just covers things in his YouTube channel that he hates, kind of thing like that. And JT tries to refute that by saying, no, I cover things I like. And then Colin just starts reading off like the last 12 videos he did, and it's all negative, clickbaity kind of headlines, kind of thing like that. And then JT kind of fires back with, well, you know how it is on YouTube. And Colin's like, no, I don't. All my podcast titles are obscure song lyrics. That's how they're titled. So I don't do that kind of thing like that. And in a sense, for JT, and Keenan and I kind of touched on this earlier in a separate conversation, that sometimes, and you've seen this on this channel, I have to have, I don't like to call it clickbait, it's like half clickbaity titles just to generate views. Because sometimes if there's a lull in viewership, you have to do those kind of things. And I always admit it, like within like the first couple minutes of the videos, like, sorry for the clickbaity title, I needed to generate the views, kind of thing like that. But if you go through my catalog, you'll only see a handful, maybe not even a handful. I don't even think it's been more than 3 titles, and I've done well over 200 videos, I think, at this point. So, but like almost all of his are, and I don't subscribe to JT's channel. I have watched at least 10 or 15 of his videos because they get recommended every once in a while. And I remember the first one that got recommended to me did not seem, or it was something that I wanted to learn more about. So I was like, okay, this video's got a bunch of views. Maybe it's informative of this issue. And it was just him going very political about video games, stuff like that. And then, of course, after I watched that one video, YouTube was like, oh, you must like this, and kept sending me a bunch of his videos. And pretty much, I want to say every video I've ever been recommended on YouTube from him has been negative. And the few I've watched, they've all kind of leaned negative and things like that. And it's just kind of one of those things, and that's the opposite of this channel. We believe in the power of positivity here, where I try not to be negative when it comes to video game stuff. Like, we might talk about negative things kind of like this debate in the video game sphere, but the channel doesn't leave negative. We try to find the positivity out of everything, kind of thing like that. So it's just one of those things. Like you'll never see a negative thing, a negative title. Like the most negative you'll see in the title is like Xbox is raising the prices, in which it's not necessarily negative, but it feels very negative when the Xbox started out as $499 and now it's almost $800. It's going the opposite way what games are supposed to do in the generation. And then circling back to Shakana, JT started calling Colin a shill for it, and it's just like, your thought on that one, Keenan?
Again, how can he be a shill when he's not getting these things for free? He's the one paying for this stuff, so you can't be a shill when you're buying it, when you're the one supporting it, meaning you're putting all your money into it. They're not giving you anything. They're not providing you anything to be positive about whatever you're focusing on.
Yeah, and
so
like,
how can you be a shill to that?
Colin even brings that stuff up. Like, he doesn't get review copies. He never gets paid for travel. He doesn't get invited to or maybe he gets invited to events, but he doesn't go, kind of thing like that. So everything he reviews and talks about on the channel, he is paid for himself. Exactly. Kind of thing. So he's not shilling for anybody. And that's kind of another thing. Like, I've seen like other creators talk about when and I'm not going to say they're all negative creators, but when they're talking about a company they don't like in a negative light, whether it be Disney or Nintendo, like I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the real fake wizard. He kept calling like Nintendo fans shill when the Switch 2 came out because it was $450, and like, why would you buy this? You're shilling. It's like, throwing the word shill around is different. Like, if Nintendo went and whooped a bunch of like orphans in the middle of the thing and people defended it, that's shilling. But at the same time, I thought the most expensive the Switch 2 was going to be was $400. It was $50 more than that, and if you won the game, it was $100 more than that. Now, to me, I still felt the Switch 2 was worth paying that much for. That's not me shilling for Nintendo, even though I am the Nintendo dad. I know that's a weird juxtaposition with the name and stuff like that, but I'm a Nintendo fan. I wholeheartedly admit that. And had they been like, Switch 2 is $700, I'm like, pass. And that would have been an easy pass. So some people, like, they look at the value prospect of a new system and they're like, yeah, that feels worth it to me. And I will say, you know, we're July, August, September, October. So we're 4 months into the Nintendo Switch. I do not regret spending the $500 on the Switch. Well, maybe $500 because I barely play Mario Kart World, so maybe I could just gotten away. Hey, thumbs up. Stupid bubble. Maybe I could have gotten away with just the $451, but Bowie loves Mario Kart World, so I guess it was worth the $500. So I don't regret that purchase at all. I don't have any kind of buyer's remorse. Unlike my PlayStation 5, I still kind of regret buying that. Like, I've played some fun games on it, don't get me wrong, but I don't play it nearly as much as my Xbox, my PC, or my Switch. I'm just like, Especially with the government shutdown and me not having a job technically right now, being furloughed, I was like, I could use that $500. Plus whatever I've paid for games. So let's say I've probably bought at least like 8 to 10 games. So let's round up to an even 1,000. Right there, kind of thing like that. But no, it's just one of those things, like calling people shills because they defend a company. And I'm never going to wholeheartedly defend a corporation because in the end, they all are just about making money, which is perfectly fine. But when you defend like a company because they haven't done anything they're being accused of, then, you know, you're not shilling. You're just using common sense. And that's kind of what Colin was doing here. He gets nothing from Circana. He's just like, they give you all the information. They're not hiding anything. They're not hiding the fact that they don't have access to Nintendo's digital sales. They're not hiding the fact that they don't have some of the smaller storefront digital sales for PC games, which, in all honesty, probably won't like turn the tide on ranking of video games. Like, I doubt like a small storefront is going to contribute enough units to change like what the 18th and 19th best-selling game of the year is, kind of thing like that. So it's kind of like the data they don't have is very inconsequential to overall rankings, kind of thing like that. Because I did touch on Nintendo. It seems like Nintendo fans are very big on physical games. So I think if you added in the digital sales, it wouldn't move the needle as far as their rankings go as much. It obviously would move the needle of number of sales, but as far as where those games rank, especially when like the Nintendo games are in the top 5, it's like, yeah, they did that on physical mostly, kind of thing like that. And Colin kind of brought up. Damn it! I lost my train of thought because. Oh damn it! Because Colin brought up something that I didn't take in my notes when I rewatched it with you. Damn it. Oh, well, I'm just maybe that point will come to me, but I lost it. But yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like we talked about earlier in the video. If the majority of the industry uses Circana and they consider it the gold standard, again, why would Circana lie about any of the data? It doesn't help them in any way, and it would hurt them more than it would help them. And then JT, like we talked about Matt Pascatella, JT talked about a tweet he had, and the tweet from Pascatella was like, and this was kind of in response to people talking about Yote sales numbers, never ever let facts get in the way of believing what you wish here to be true. And JT is like saying that he's admitting it, like just through a fancy tweet, and Colin's like, no, he's responding to people like you who say the data's wrong and just keep arguing against the data, because that's my biggest problem whenever people argue against data. It's just stone cold numbers. Like, you could collect this same data if you really, really wanted to. I'm sure you could contact Walmart, Target, all these different corporate entities and ask them how many units of Yote that they sold. It might take you a little bit because you don't have the connections, but you could get the data, and data doesn't lie. When it's sourced, when those are hard numbers in a spreadsheet, things like that, it's just like you deal with spreadsheets all the time, Keenan.
Yep. Numbers, you can't ask for the numbers, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, data's there. That's what it's for, to tell you the specifics of what's happening.
But yeah, because you have to pay for the data, JT just feels like it's not being transparent. And no, it's transparent. You just have to pay for the transparency. I mean, if you're good at something, never do it for free, as the Joker said in The Dark Knight. It just blows my mind. It's just like they're not like hiding anything. It's just behind a paywall. That'd be like saying like the Athletic, the sports paper, because it's a paywall, or the New York Times because it's a paywall online, that they're hiding something. They're not hiding something. They're providing a service, and they're not doing it for free. You have to pay for it. So it's just, if you provide a service, you do want to get paid for it in some way, and the Circana gets paid. They charge their members for access to the data, and that's not hiding anything. If like JT wanted transparency, he could fork over the $6,000 to see the raw sales figures, kind of thing like that. Yeah, just kind of going back to how this channel is, we're not trying to turn a quick buck. Like, I could easily just make a bunch of negative videos for clicks. It's not hard. Like, I could just find something in the industry and just rail on it. But that's not what we do here. It's like, keyword in Nintendo is dad, and I set a moral standard. I set a moral standard for my boys. I set a moral standard for my students and my players that I coach, kind of thing like that. And I have to live that moral standard. I can't just come on here and lie to you guys or spin the truth to make a quick buck, kind of thing like that. Because we're sitting at 672 subscribers. I could be well over 1,000 probably if I just spun the negativity, kind of thing like that. But no, I'll grow the channel slowly. I'll grow it organically and not do those kind of things. And it'll be funny if in a few years I have a bigger following than JT, because that's the thing, is like when you're negative, you tend to lose followers, because eventually you're going to be negative about something they like, and they're like, and then they'll look back and they're like, oh, I've kind of been blinded because I agreed with him on this one thing. Let me unsub. Where you see the channels that are mostly positive, those are the ones that get into the millions of subscribers, kind of thing like that. And the ones that, you know, are negative, they get a big hit and then eventually they die down because people get tired of the negativity. It's just not good for your mental health, kind of thing like that. And even if like you're being fake negative, that still can't be good for your mental health. It's trying to find the negativity and everything like that. I try to be positive thinking and optimist. I try to look for the good in everything, kind of thing like that. And Colin, like I said, Colin called him out for his negativity. And at the end, JT got the last word one because it was his video. So after Colin signed off, JT got the last video. And he basically accused Colin of being a part of the good old boy network, protecting this data, protecting this knowledge from the people, kind of thing like that. And it's just, it just drove me insane, kind of thing like that. So we're finishing up the video here. This actually did not go as long as I thought it would, thankfully, so it's only going to be one video. I thought I might have to break it up into two. But Keenan, what are your kind of final thoughts on the whole thing, given like you're not a video gamer, but you were looking at from a business side, data side, because that's what you do. What are your final thoughts on that whole debate, and who do you think won in the end?
I definitely think Colin.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't know either one of them, but Colin, because it made sense in the business model that company's going after, makes complete sense. If someone's going to pay for the service, there's no reason for them to give bad numbers. Transparency is there, meaning they're providing the numbers. So I think the transparency that the other guy's looking for is just giving everything for free, just giving the numbers no matter what, like how Japan was just giving numbers without you having to subscribe.
Yeah, that's Fatsumi magazine.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, it's for them, it's only physical numbers.
Yeah,
it's what the store
right.
sells, so it has
Retail
nothing to do with.
sales.
Yeah, so it is in a sense less accurate than Circana because Circana, with the exception of Nintendo, has all the digital sales, kind of thing like that.
And they're still transparent. Circana's transparent because they say what they don't have.
Right.
So they're putting it out there. They're not just saying, "Hey, these are all the numbers for this game." They're saying what's missing from those numbers, and they're letting people know. So that's transparency right there.
Yeah.
So I don't see what the argument is about things being hidden. If the number's not available, it's not available. You can't just make it appear out of nowhere.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to my point. It's like, it just feels like that JT wanted Yotei to fail. And because it's the 18th best-selling game in the U.S., as of whenever Colin made his tweet, I'm sure, because I'm going to have tweets posted up at some point in this video. I'm sure it's date stamped. And it being the 18th best-selling game of the year, and Colin brings out, it went against some heavy hitters like Monster Hunter and things like that, showed that the game was a success. Was it as successful as Ghost of Tsushima? No, it was not. But it was very successful this year. And I feel like Yotei and Assassin's Creed Shadows were unfairly targeted by, I really don't want to say those on the right, because I probably most like conservatives don't care or like don't care that it was the way those games, their protagonists were, but those on the negative side of the YouTube and Twitter sphere kind of wanted those games to fail because it would prove their narrative, kind of thing like that. And before Ubisoft left, Assassin's Creed Game of Shadows was the third best selling game of the year, which then JT also tried to chime in saying that, like, well, it didn't meet Ubisoft's expectations, stuff like that. Again, trying to spin a negative out of a positive on that thing because Assassin's Creed Shadows had a black protagonist. And when I covered that game back when the trailer dropped, I said no one should be offended for the Japanese. If that game, and Assassin's Creed games sell well in Japan, if that game bombs in Japan, then we will know the Japanese were offended by Yasuke. I can't remember at this point because I don't play Assassin's Creed games. That's where I didn't really care. I was just like, it's like I don't care, because every few years I try to get into Assassin's Creed. I play a game and then I'm out. I'm like, nope, I don't like it, kind of thing. So I think those people who do the spin negative on the side of conservatism, kind of thing like that, they wanted those games to fail, and those games obviously did not fail. So it kind of, they try to spin it one way because they want all the gamers to be on their side, and obviously if those games are successful and rate well and things like that, then it proves that gamers are not on their side. So I think Colin won the debate, especially the debate over Circana, because like I said, I knew nothing about Circana before watching the debate. I kind of did a little dive into it on Google, and everything I read basically said, yes, if you want hard US sales data, this is the best place to go, kind of thing like that. So it just kind of like, again, most people agree with Colin on that situation. And like I did in my video talking about the Fallout, most of JT's viewers thought Colin won that, in a sense. And there's been more Twitter drama between the two, mostly JT chirping at Colin, kind of thing like that since then. I'm not going to cover any more of that. I told JT himself that I would watch the video with an open mind. And JT, if you're watching, or if you watched this long into the video, if you watched a little bit, it's just one of those things, like, just your argument is very flawed, only because there's no logical reason why Circana would fudge the numbers. It doesn't make fiscal sense. It doesn't even make logical sense why they would do that, because they don't benefit from boosting up a Sony game. And if they were going to lie about Ghost of Yotei, Why say 18?
Right.
Get it in the top 10. I'm like, no one really unless like you are like a one-person developer just like typing your fingers to the bone to make a game. No one's bragging about 18. It's like, it's top 10 or bust. Like, that's always been kind of my motto with things. So, it's like, if they were going to lie about Ghost of Yotei, why, like, even why 18? Why not top 15? If you don't want to, like, oh, no one's going to believe top 10. But if they're going to believe 18, I'd believe 15. You know, 15 or 14. Yeah, so, it would just be like, if they're going to lie about that game, like, make it a little bit bigger lie. Because, again, they can get caught for that. It's not hard. Like, even if, like Microsoft wasn't waving the white flag and they're like, there's no way Ghost of Yotei did this well. Microsoft could call around and get the numbers, you know, and figure it out for themselves and like say, hey, no, kind of thing like that. So that's kind of the end of this. Keenan, thank you for joining me for this video, and thank you for watching a 40-minute long video game debate when gaming's not your big thing. Yeah,
interesting. It was cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of the roundup of it, and in the end, I think Colin just he wins because logic was on his side. It's not even about like an opinion. It's just kind of like, as long as you don't have a conspiratorial mindset towards Circana, just logically thinking, you just like, yeah, that doesn't, yeah. Because I even showed it to my wife, and she was like, that does, and she doesn't give a shit about any of it. She's like, yeah, no, why would they lie about that? It doesn't make any sense. So it's just kind of like, again, two people who don't know who JT, don't know who Colin are, don't care about video games, watched it and just like, yeah, that doesn't make any logical sense of why they would lie, kind of thing like that. So that is the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've watched the video, who do you think won? Let me know. I do want to know, and in case JT comes back here, so that way he can see your guys' opinion too. Not just mine, not just Keenan's, not just my wife's. I'm proxying for her because she is away. She long needed vacation, kind of thing like that. But yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.